No one's ever heard of procrastination at all?
Just putting on work.
Cool. Okay, so putting off work. Yeah, we can go ahead with that. I won't torture you guys. So, procrastination, yanked this one from Merriam-Webster, essentially just to put off intentionally the doing of something that should be done. Postponing, definitely, Samantha. So, keywords here, putting off. So, you're changing your standard of completion, delaying your schedule. That could include either saying, okay, I'm going to do this today to obviously tomorrow, the next day, the next week, never. Or you could consider it changing your standard of completion so you feel like you'll be done faster. So if you're writing an essay and you really want it to stand out, you really want it to look good, you want it to be 10 pages, have 10 resources, whatever. And as time goes on, you try to put it off. You say, okay, I'll actually only do 5 pages. I'll actually only do the minimum 3 pages, 1 page, something like that. Intentionally, you didn't just forget to do something. I think that's an important distinction. You shouldn't like hurt yourself mentally, like make yourself feel bad for forgetting. That's significantly different from, intentionally, repetitively choosing not to do something. So I think procrastination definitely has the intent behind it and obviously should be done. I think it's different again to procrastinate maybe going out with your friends or doing something that not necessarily needs to be done at a time. Obviously, self-care, you should go out with your friends, you shouldn't lock yourself in your room, but it's different from procrastinating on maybe an assignment or something that more urgently needs to be done. So, what are some ways that you guys have procrastinated? And this time, I mean, if you're saying if you haven't responded, or you're gonna say, I don't procrastinate, my study habits are perfect, you're lying, you're not right. I'm positive that you have, you're positive that you have. So awesome. So yes, Ariana. Oh well, I guess she can hear me if she can't hear me talking. Um, okay. So while we're checking to see if her audio works. Yeah, your job makes you tired. You come home and don't want to do anything. Definitely. Procrastination isn't, we'll get into it in a minute, but it's not, like evil. You're not purposely thinking like, I'm intentionally gonna put this off until the last minute and stress myself out. I'm like awful and terrible. One second. Okay. Studying. Yeah, everyone's procrastinated studying. I think at least for me, I came into college thinking that I was going to study, 6 hours a day, every day. I was going to be ahead of everything by like a full chapter. And obviously I wasn't. So definitely a very common source. Awesome. Cool. So general war stories on procrastination here. Um, for me, very common. There was an instance where I applied for an internship. I got like a pre-screening sort of assessment. It's sort of like a technical interview thing that they give you to take home. And so I'll always say, okay, I'll study for it. I'll get ready for it. And then I'll take it when I'm ready. I don't study for it because feel like I have other things to do. I don't take the assessment. I don't get an internship. So Everyone has similar stories as we've shared that relate more closely to them. That's just mine. The ways that it applies to our definition, I put off studying, which means I put off the assessment. So very clearly, I put it off. I was intentional because I knew that I should study for it. I knew it was important, but I chose not to. And it should have been done because I wanted it. I wanted an internship. I like money. I like having a job. So, why do we procrastinate? So, for common reasons that we procrastinate, this is what we call the cycle of procrastination. So, again, nobody's like genuinely evil and awful and thinking, I'm going to procrastinate for no reason. Usually, it's a reaction to some form of stress. So, you might start with the thought that's an upcoming deadline, something like a test or an interview, or essentially something coming up that you know has to be done. And typically, you feel stressed about it. You're worried about your performance on the exam. You're worried about the preparation. You're nervous. You feel bad that you didn't study earlier. And so then your body tries to compensate by emotional repair. So you think, okay, I feel stressed. So to deal with the stress, I'm going to play whatever game I like to play, or I'm going to essentially engage in something that's going to distract me or take away the stress. Seeking stress relief isn't like an uncommon habit, and it's not necessarily a bad one. But when it takes the place of a more proactive response to the upcoming deadline, it can be negative. Other factors, it's not necessarily just what's going on in your life. There's physical factors. If you're not in the best health, you're probably going to get stressed more easily, which can lead to feeling stressed about more and more things, which leads to procrastination. Lack of sleep, dehydration, poor nutrition, potentially lack of exercise, lack of sunlight, things like that. External, something else that you want to do that makes it easier to think like, okay, I want to do this instead. Or potentially stressors outside of the thing that's actually directly stressing you. If you have an exam coming up and then you start thinking like, oh man, my boyfriend's going to break up with me, or I have this trip I have to go on, that's also going to impact you. So essentially anything that can contribute to stress or which takes time in your schedule can add to the cycle. So what are the consequences of procrastination other than needing to be here? So number one, probably the most obvious, decreased performance in classes. I think maybe the most common form of procrastination is studying. It's working on assignments, working on projects. So that's probably the most common area that we would take a hit. Procrastinating for classes means less time spent on your assignment or studying. The less time you spend on it, odds are you won't know the content as well. Your assignment won't be as thorough, and that would correlate with a lower grade. Subsequently, spending less time in your classes, if you don't do as well as you thought you were going to do, then that can increase your stress because you're suddenly thinking, oh man, now I need to get an 80 on my next exam. I need to get an 85. I'm so behind in the class. Your stress increases. You want to seek stress relieving activity. The cycle continues. You'll also feel like just generally for procrastinating, you'll have less time for everything. This is that sort of feeling where you always feel like there's something that has to be done. You'll finish an assignment and you'll think about the next one. You'll be doing an assignment and you're thinking about the next one. It's like an eternal time debt where you are always behind. You always feel like you're behind. So, I'm sure many of you have felt that. Guess what? Probably caused by procrastinating. Your physical health can decline. Less time for exercise, coupled with an increase in stress, definitely not good for your system. And mental health will decline. You're stressed. That can, over a prolonged period of time of having extra stress, lead to worse mental health. You're not going to feel as relaxed. You are going to be in a constant state of worry. And that feeds back into physical health because, again, if you're constantly stressed, fight or flight, type reflex. Yeah. Um, I think that it probably also contributes to that idea of gifted kid burnout syndrome, if you guys have ever heard of that, where people come out of high school thinking that, okay, I got straight A's, I didn't really have to try that hard. I'm going to go through college and it's going to be just like that. So you probably haven't built up as effective study habits. You come into college, realize you need to study. It's way harder because you don't have the habits. You're more stressed. Guess what? You procrastinate. So how do we defeat our urge to procrastinate? Let's start off with motivation. So these are just sort of general things to think about. Why are you in college? Why are you in your major? What is it that you want? Does anyone want to answer any of those? I know like the last one's sort of a large question. I can go first if no one wants to. Um, so I'm in college. I'm in my major, which is computer science. Boo if you want to. Because I want to work in game development. I want to do computer graphics, and that's what I want. And so for me, mentally reframing my goals rather than thinking, oh man, I have to do this assignment. I feel like it doesn't really apply to, what I'm doing, or I just have to do it for a test. I try to mentally reframe it as, okay, I want to do well in this because either it really does relate to this job I want, or I want to do well so that I can get good grades, have a degree, and get the job that I want. So does anyone else have like a similar train of thought that they want to share? Savannah. No, no, because now I'm nervous. What does that mean?
Oh, I want to divorce my husband. So,
All right.
yes,
Okay.
financially.
All right. Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's I thought you were going to say something like, oh, I want to be a serial killer. So I'm taking like, it's way better than I was expecting. Thank you for that. So yeah, we have accounting, wanted to become an accountant. I was unmotivated, trying to become motivated again, whether I want to stay in the path or not still. Yeah. I think trying to have some sort of goal, finding like, again, the job you want. And sometimes you're right, you'll go through the path and maybe at some point you'll realize either, hey, this isn't for me, or if you reframe it again, you'll realize, okay, I remember what it is I'm trying to do. That was the case for me. I was taking classes thinking, what does this really have to do with anything? I don't even know if I like the content. And it took reframing like my career goals, what I wanted from a job, what I wanted from a degree, what I wanted from day-to-day work to think, okay, I understand why I'm doing this, even if maybe I'm not having oodles and oodles of fun. We have biology pre-health track and want to go to med school. Great. So yeah, further goals. You want to go somewhere that requires certain grades, a certain degree. So it makes sense for why you're pursuing that. Awesome. Next way, strategies. So it's great to have motivation, but how do we actually accomplish it? These are just a couple different methods that I have listed. I'm sure that you guys have others, and I would really appreciate it if you'd share them in the chat. So just a couple that I use. Pomodoro method, big fan, big Pomodoro guy. You can work in certain increments. So either, Samantha, you do Pomodoro? Great. Yeah, it's honestly, it's the one thing that probably saved my studying career. You work in increments of actually doing work and then taking breaks. So for instance, 25 minutes, you say, okay, I'm going to focus on studying. Do your flashcards for just 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. And that way you can build your concentration back up. If any of you are like stuck in the TikTok brain rot, like death loop, this is a really good way to escape it. Uh, if you sit down for like, thinking, all right, I'm going to pull an all-nighter, 8 straight hours, I'm flipping through my flashcards, I'm highlighting things, let's go. Odds are, I've done it before, you get like an hour in, maybe 2 hours, and then you start thinking, oh man, well, I could just go to sleep and wake up early and study. Or you sort of suddenly find yourself on your phone at 4 in the morning, not having studied. So this is a really good way to avoid burnout, to avoid losing concentration. And you can do it with all sorts of other times too. Once your concentration improves, like 45, 10, an hour, 10. There was one I saw where it was like 2 hours and then 20 minutes, which is insane, but you get the point. Another thing is this thing called the Eisenhower matrix. I have it projected up there. The text is a little small, so I'll read it out. You want to fix your TikTok brain rot? Extremely real. I had to delete it. I couldn't do it. So Eisenhower matrix is, as you can see, it's a little 4x4, oh my God, 2x2 grid of tasks that are urgent versus not urgent, and tasks that are important versus unimportant. Not necessarily unimportant, but maybe not as important in the given context. So important to your school, important to your goals, whatever. So going through the matrix, not important, not urgent, don't care. These are, things like binge watching or essentially something that doesn't fit into whatever goal or category you have. I'm trying not to give one that's going to be like too specific, but yeah. If it's urgent, but it's less important, the Eisenhower matrix calls it delegating. So that's something where you like block off time to do it. You set it up, but you don't have to, I guess, focus on it as much. If you were in a business, this would be, I guess, a little more applicable. You delegate the task to someone else. But when it's just you, odds are you don't have someone to delegate the task to. Odds are you're not going to spend $5 on Fiverr to delegate this to someone. So maybe less applicable. What is applicable is not urgent but important. This definitely fits better with scheduling. So setting up time to either work out, which is important because your health is important. You are not like dark academia, working yourself to death, studying. That it's not going to happen. You are not him. Spending time with family, and then if you have an exam well in the future, you could put studying in there. So say that you have an exam in 6 weeks. Maybe not super urgent, but definitely important. So you set aside 30 minutes every other day, study it, you'll be better prepared. The last one, probably the most, important, is the intersection of urgent and important. That's what you need to do now. You have homework due in 2 days. You need to finish that now. You have a test. You need to drive to your test now. I think a lot of people probably try to categorize everything as both important and urgent. I think that's a trap that you really want to try to avoid. That's when, you'll think, okay, well, I can chuck that in there too. I'm feeling motivated. I feel like I can get it done. And then you have 20 things in there that you have to do in a span of a day or two. Guess what? It stresses you out. You seek stress avoidant activities. You're procrastinating again. So keep it simple. Only put in there what is genuinely urgent and important, and you'll be good. Next strategy, group study. So this is a way to keep yourself accountable while also making studying maybe a bit more enjoyable. You find a reliable group of similarly motivated people, specific and repeatable blocks of study time. Everyone's got to show up. If someone doesn't show up, get a reason. Keep each other accountable while you study. If someone's on their phone, maybe don't kick them in the shin, as I was going to suggest, but, remind them like you're studying at that time. You can account Pomodoro in there if you want. Additionally, keyword, similarly motivated people. It's great if you want to like hang out with your friends and do your best to study, but sometimes that sort of just falls into hanging out. So finding people in your class who have similar goals, who also really want to study, who also maybe have this task as urgent and important, probably going to help. All this is really just to say it's important to find the strategy that works best for you. So does anyone have strategies that they use that I have not shared here?
I don't know, if it's like really a strategy, but just buy it.
Buying a planner, yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Like having a physical, visible schedule. I've started to do that because I used to just like put it in my notes, like, oh, to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't exactly. It vanishes, or I just stop reading it. I'll look at it and I have something from like 2 weeks ago. Like, okay, I don't think that's super important anymore. We really commonly refer to like Google Calendar or a physical planner, definitely.
I almost missed the-
Thanks. No, exactly. Like I hear about people in my program who, students will come in and say, I forgot we had a test. Like you have to write it down, have to have some sort of system in place. Andrew says, when I'm studying from home, I try to do small exercises between Pomodoro breaks. That's great. Honestly, like, especially if you're sitting down for prolonged periods of time, like I get very fidgety. I want to stand up, I want to stretch, I want to do something. And then if I sit back down, not really feeling fully like fidgeted out, it gets harder for me to focus. So I'm actually going to steal that one from you. Thank you for that. All right. So next up, resources. This is sort of where I get to promote my program here. SARC, this is a SARC presentation. So congratulations, you know about SARC. Student Academic Resource Center. We have a couple of different programs under our umbrella. Mine, again, is supplemental instruction. If you guys are taking a course like Bio 1, Bio 2, Chem 1, Chem 2, Orgo 1, Orgo 2, most of like I think between 2 to 3,000 STEM classes in biology, chemistry, engineering, computer science, a couple other subjects, I think. Odds are you have an SI leader. So I would definitely recommend going. Our statistics show people who regularly attend these kind of sessions score a half to a full letter grade higher than those who don't. And plus, you can meet people. You can work in a group. So you have group study. It's a set block of time each week that you can go and learn. So reliable, repeatable, dependable, recommended. There's also peer tutoring, which is like our sister program in a sense. That's a bit more individualized. They're going to help you a bit more with maybe like direct understanding of the content. Most courses also in that like bracket have peer tutors, and ACE Consulting, which is really about helping you be a better college student and manage your time. There's also career services. So for instance, if you felt like, hey, maybe I'm actually not super interested in my major. I think that's actually a bit more of the major exploration. Or if you think, man, I want a job, I want an internship, I want to shadow someone. That's a goal that I have. You can seek them out. And there's also CAPS, which is a student mental health resource. You get, it's either 3 or 6 free therapy sessions. And then you get referred to, I don't remember the other program's name. If those sessions aren't enough, you can either seek out a private practice or you'll be referred to another resource where you will be given therapy by a master's student of psychology in clinical mental health who will be supervised by someone else. So for a lot of people like me, it's not super affordable to maybe with my college budget seek out therapy. So a resource like this, especially when you're stressed, is really helpful. Ariana says, I like finding people for a group study in the SI meetings because they're usually more committed than others. Awesome. Yeah, a lot of people in SI, you are setting out a block of time of your day to go attend this. Like that's good motivation right there. It's people who want to be there, who want to learn, who want to improve. And the reason why you do group work in SI is so that you can build relationships with other people and hopefully study together outside of classes. So that's really great to hear. All right, so now we're going to move into our little activity. So before we do, I'm going to give you guys a brief explanation of what are called SMART goals. Some of you might have heard of them before, some of you might not have. These are another sort of framework you can use to avoid procrastinating. It's essentially setting yourself goals that meet this given criteria, and knowing all of this information makes it easier to accomplish the goal because it's well thought out. So first off, you have a specific goal, and we're sort of going to build off of this broad goal as we go along. Specific goal, that's an improvement from something just like I will study. Not super, specific, doesn't really explain what you're going to study. It's very easy to push aside this goal. So then you can go to, I will study chapter 6 in the textbook. Now you know where you're going to study, you know what you're going to study. Then you can move along to measurable. So again, if you were to just say, I'm going to study, or I'm going to study chapter 6, that's good, but how much of it? What's exactly the metric that you're going to use to measure your studying? So then you can say, I will study this number of pages per day from chapter 6 in the textbook. And that's up to you to determine the number of pages, so long as it's attainable. I will study this realistic number of pages per day. Please do not think that you're going to be on like your super grind 35 pages a day. It's just not going to work. Set yourself an attainable goal. The more attainable it is, the more likely you are to complete it. Completing a goal improves mental health, makes you feel less stressed, less likely to procrastinate. Next is relevant. This is sort of an obvious one. You're studying chapter 6 in the textbook because it's going to be on your test. It's great if you want to study chapter 4, but if you're not going to be tested on it, not as relevant. Last up is timely. So again, it sort of goes hand in hand with relevant. If you have a test in 2 months and your goal is to study 10 pages a day, maybe not as fitting. But if your test is upcoming, 2 weeks from now, 1 week from now, it's a little more fitting. So our final example here is I will study 5 pages per day from chapter 6 in the textbook for the next week because it will be on my upcoming test. Does anyone have any question about SMART goals, about how we construct a SMART goal? So we have these handouts, but printed too many. What a shame. So I'm going to upload this file in our chat, and using it, I just want you guys to create 2 SMART goals for yourself, something that applies to what you're doing, something that applies to your class, your personal life. And then we'll go around and we'll share just one from each person after a little bit. Yeah, they told me to print like 40 copies, so what a shame. Let's see. Oh. So I am looking for the file here. There we go. Okay, so I just sent it in the chat. You can download it. It should be cybersecurity safe. I usually use Paint to write on these things. If you have an iPad with a pen, then that works way better. If you want to just use this as a reference and write it in Word, on a different document, on paper, in your planner, on your whiteboard, on your arm, on your cat, that's fine too. And then I'll give you guys maybe 5, 7 minutes, probably 5. And then we'll go around and share. And I will bring back the presentation so you guys can see that. And let me know if you guys have any questions. That's probably enough time, right? So, does anyone, well, you guys are sort of all using the chat, so I'll give you guys a minute, and if you would post just one of your SMART goals with something specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And Savannah, did you want to share one of yours?
For ready. And then. Yeah. City. Just to finish that section.
Awesome. Yeah. So timely, you have an exam coming up, specific amount, because it's a section. Great. And we'll wait for a couple people to put theirs in the chat. Okay. Great. I'll bring these to someone who will know what to do with them. So Samantha says, I will be at I will attend tutoring times, having done my practice tests and assignments at least one time per day, up until test time in 2 weeks, with any questions I may have, because it will be on your exam 3. Awesome. So let's start off with obviously time bound. You have a test in 2 weeks. So, again, it's relevant because it's a test upcoming. Um, Attainable because you're just having your practice tests and assignments done. You're not trying to do maybe too much or do anything crazy. Measurable because you're trying to finish these specific assignments and you're trying to show up at least one time per day. And yeah, specific. It's for that given class. You're attending tutoring times. You're not just saying, I'm studying. Great. Anyone else? I will wait until we get at least just one more. I would like to have 3 little examples.
Can I go again?
Yeah, you can go again. That works.
I would go to the gym, sorry, can't remember. I will go to the gym for 45 minutes every morning at 7 a.m. 5 days a week for 2 weeks until my vacation.
Awesome. So measurable, given number of times a week for 45 minutes. Attainable, as long as you think that's attainable. It's not for me. I'm lazy. I can't go 5 times. You said what, a 7 a.m.? Yeah, no, couldn't be me. I used to. I used to be able to go at like 6, but I like sleeping. Relevant, good for health, always relevant. And timely because you have a set amount, 2 weeks. Cool. So last but not least, just a quick mention on self-care. So this is all well and good. It's very good to have yourself some goals. Oh my goodness. Set yourself some goals, to have goals, to prepare for your classes, to try to accomplish, whatever big grand life goals you have. But please make time for self-care. Please make time for breaks. It's just like Pomodoro. You give yourself an extra 5 minutes at the end of a little study session so that your mind can reset. You can take a break and then you can focus back up. So plan fun activities once you're finished working. It's essentially just a reward system. It shouldn't be too surprising to hear that once you've done, a good job on your test or you've practiced enough, then you can reward yourself. It's very helpful to set up some sort of reward if you're constantly, you're on your grind, you're studying, that can lead to burnout. So definitely set aside some time just for something that you want to do. And at this point, I've slide. Okay, there we go. You guys can either use your mics and ask questions. You can enter in the chat for questions. Uh, Before you go, if you'd be willing to scan this QR code and fill out an evaluation form. Otherwise, you'll never see me again. They'll get rid of me. Probably not. I hope not. Um, Thank you guys for showing up. And yeah, please submit any questions that you guys have. Chat, mic, eval form, pigeon, Morse code. Once you scan the QR code, unless you have any questions, then that's it. Thank you guys. What's up, Ariane? Watching this from, okay. I believe I have a fix for that, Andrew. So let me get that real fast. So I just sent a link, which should hopefully direct you to what's called Penji. You're just going to sign in there. Oh, shoot, for the evaluation form. If you're here for like, your professor gives extra credit, your department like mandates it, then you can put it there. Um, the evaluation form. Sorry, one second. Said you deleted TikTok. I already have a timer on the app. That is exactly what happened to me. So if you have some sort of social media and you set yourself a timer, what I found is that I immediately migrated over to something else that would give me some sort of dopamine. So it's Instagram Reels, it's YouTube Shorts, it's just completely random things that I don't even enjoy watching. As for a recommendation, I downloaded an app called Opal. It's sort of like the timer, but it essentially knows which apps can be harmful. So it'll block YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, social media, LinkedIn. So rather than you being able to just push like the ignore timer for 15 minutes button, um, it'll just block it. And in order to stop blocking it, you have to go into the app, wait, I think 5 or 10 seconds, and then it'll give you the option to leave your study session if you want. But I found it's much more effective that way since I don't feel inclined to leave it since it's out of sight. You can also set like the timer. So, if you want to block it from 10 to 5, then that's fine. You can watch TikTok afterward, but it'll block it from 10 to 5. So the app is called Oopal, like that. I'm trying to find the evaluation link. It's here somewhere. Shoot. Andrew, if I upload the QR code, I don't know how scanning the QR code works. Can you like scan Hmm. Does it do it by location? I don't know, actually. I haven't investigated that. I have it for iOS. I'm not sure if it has it on Android. It probably does. I'd be surprised if it doesn't. Okay, Andrew. I think all I have is the QR code. So, hmm, thank you for checking in. I appreciate that. Um, Otherwise, I'm not sure I can get you the link. I apologize for that. What does it look like? It's a white circle with like a little black blob inside, like an O. So you can either use Opal or just set yourself like, I think iOS does something similar to it, just built in, where it'll block everything that you set and you can't unblock it. So obviously, don't don't block anything you really need. Um, yeah, it's a white circle with like a little black blob inside of it. If you can't find it, they might not have it for Android, or I don't know what phone you have. Yep, no problem. Um, we are past 250, which is, oh yeah, yeah, sorry, that's all. So thank you guys for coming. Yeah, have a nice day. You too, thank you. Thank you, you too.